What I'm worried about, Stugotz, is that it's not just a Wild Billy Thursday, which is dangerous and doesn't have a lot of precedent, but because you heard it was a Wild Billy Thursday, you came in here when you were still on your elbows and knees walking around from what the Super Bowl did to you. You've come in here to be a part of a Wild Billy Thursday, and furthermore, Greg Cody is rushing as fast as he can to get here, so we're going to get the added benefit of Greg Cody on a Wild Billy Thursday, walking in mid-segment, walking in breathless, not knowing that we're on the air, confused.
It's my favorite kind of Greg Cody, though. I mean,
Billy, what are we in for on Wild?
Just a regular day.
No.
I'm here to get us point A to point. Listen, I'm in this chair. I have different responsibilities. When I'm asked to be in this chair, I'm here to be responsible. I'm here to get us start a segment, end a segment. Get the ads in. Do the Thursday Thunder. Tell you about Smirnoff. Tell you about DraftKings. Check the boxes. Point A to point B.
That's what we're
today
all
I'm
about.
point
That's
A to
it.
point
That's
Billy.
what we want.
That's exactly what we're doing here today.
That's right. Train station that goes point A to point B.
That's right.
Jessica, can you help me understand inner office, inner shipping container, back row dynamics? Billy moving from the back row and his seat of normal grenade rolling and being replaced by Tony, who he sabotaged yesterday in a prank in his return from paternity leave. Tony being over Billy's shoulder when Billy's just trying to get us from point A and to point B and can retaliate on Billy because their relationship is not a supportive one. Back row, Tony, how does it change today that Billy's in the front seat?
I'm supporting Billy. He's my EP. He's the captain of the ship today. He's the one that's driving from point A to point B. Again, talking about Smirnoff, talking about DraftKings, talking about all the sponsors, all the great sponsors that promote on this show. That's what we do. My captain is here. We're locked in, and we're excited to do the show today, Dan. Even though I talked to Robert, and I was like, hey, look, what happened here back here? So, Billy, you weren't here yesterday.
Yeah.
As you don't know, the screw, as you can see, like right here, this screw right here in the microphone.
Oh, he knows, Tony.
Right. I'm just saying, like, he doesn't know, so I'm going to explain it to him.
How could I?
Exactly. So all of a sudden, I went to start the show. I grabbed the mic to pull it towards me because it was a little far away.
And because he's awfully handsy with the mic all the time.
Okay. Some would say that. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing falls apart.
Oh.
And it exploded. And I had to hold it in my hand, and then Robert had to come in. We had to tape it, and we had to do a bunch of stuff. So...
And did they bill you for that, or
didn't bill me? No, I billed the company.
Oh, you billed the company?
Yeah, no. What? Robert paid me. I paid.
What did you get paid for?
Jessica,
bring it to his attention.
How's this going to go with Billy having to look over his shoulder when he's got to get us point A to point B?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, thank you.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat from the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one, man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man, so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Look who's arriving heroically on a Wild Billy Thursday. Greg Cody is arriving in the middle of our show. He's gonna get ready. He's gonna get ready quickly. That will not be noisy at all.
No.
He will do so efficiently. A surgical strike like a Navy SEAL team. He will be a 70-year-old that gets into position and ready to broadcast.
Wow.
Like the professional that he is. How was traffic this morning, Greg?
It wasn't the traffic. What happened is I had to swerve off the road to avoid a hurtling meteor that was crashing to the earth.
Huh.
Plus, traffic was bad.
Right.
Okay, he's coming in flying with jokes and noises. He's going to unzip what I'm assuming is a travel bag he got at the 1992 Barcelona Olympics.
Wrong. This happens to be a Christmas gift from an unmentioned son of mine who decided I needed a new one.
Wow.
Wow.
It's a little bit small, but it's new.
What Christmas? This year?
Yeah.
Michael?
The other one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, Christopher.
I think it was Christopher. I don't know. I mix them up all the time.
Makes sense,
Christopher is out today. He and Mike Ryan have decided to go celebrate hockey in Canada and Valentine's Day together. They just decided not to show up for work. I'm not going to reveal any sources, but in the eating area before the show, I did overhear some people shrug and say, I don't know, can they just show up for work whenever they want to? And I had no idea who they were talking about. It could have been anybody around here.
Yeah, it was those two. Yeah.
It wasn't those two, which is the funny thing. We're talking about someone else.
When I walked by and I heard you say it, I'm like, it could be anybody. I don't know who they're saying that about. That they're complaining they're grousing in the corner that they had to come into work today and somebody else didn't have to come into work and just chose not to come into work today.
Well, you're on a loose ship. Can I say that?
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I walk into a room here in the studio. Somebody's getting a massage.
Yep.
The hell's going on?
Yeah.
That did happen.
It happened.
And like in a somewhat state of undress. And the door was locked. And we were like, well, we have to go in here. We were sent to the penalty box. And then they like open the door and they're like, oh, we're getting a massage. And we're like, oh, it's the middle of the show.
Got weird, right?
It did, yeah. And
then
we had to get out of there because you had sent all three of us to the penalty box at the same time. We had to figure out a new place to go. I don't know what's going on here.
A little awkward.
If I was there, point A to point B. That day we veered off.
That's right. Well, let me ask the group this before I get into today's subject matter, because when Greg Cody says this, it would appear to be self-evident. The sentence, you run a loose ship. Yeah, there aren't a lot of working environments in America that look like this on television. Like, yes, we run a very loose ship, but I thought that's what employees would want. I'm wrong, right? I'm wrong that the running of a loose ship makes it so you get those conversations in the corner of the eating area where people are noticing that somebody else has a day off and isn't working as hard as they are, or whatever it is that those things. So, I would think that most people listening to this would like to work in an environment that is a loose ship. I'm wrong.
Well, the reality is no one wants to work. Right, so like that's if we're gonna cut to the chase.
We'll take a loose ship, I guess.
No one actually. If you gave everyone their prime working conditions, it would be I don't want to work.
Is that true? Do you think that's
yes.
true? I don't think that's true, man.
Most people don't want to work.
Okay,
Dan.
but there are a lot of people that love their jobs and do want to do them. Like, I'm not making that up. I would say, you've heard me say this before, I think the unhappiness epidemic that you will find everywhere in the world is at least triggered in part by the fact that a lot of people are doing for more than 40 hours a week something they deeply resent having to do. Like, I understand why people would be really sad with their lives when so much of it is spent something they hate doing, but this ain't that, or it's not supposed to be.
Maybe there's just a lot of baggage that comes with this loose ship. Speaking of baggage, Greg, is that a Toomey briefcase?
Oh. I have no idea.
That would be a good one. Wait a minute.
That's
an expensive
gift from
brand.
your son.
Yeah. Is that a
right.
It looks like a Toomey, but I don't think it
is.
is.
It is a Toomey.
Wow.
Look at that.
T-U-M-I.
It's a nice gift.
Wow.
Wow. Is it really?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good
That's
one.
like a $600 briefcase.
No, it is. It can't be.
Probably a regift if we're gonna be honest.
It was a regift.
Why can't it be?
What do you mean it wasn't? What do you know?
I just have the feeling it was a regift from Christopher. That's all.
Really?
Yes.
Someone heard Christopher got the EP situation and said, you know what, this is an important man of business. He needs a bag that goes along with it. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Erlene didn't give that to Christopher. He forgot, and then Christopher gave it to you. And no one wants to say what happened because we're all embarrassed.
I wouldn't be surprised if Greg Cody on Christmas is such a narcissist that the way he gives Christmas gifts is with little stickers that say "to me," and that comes it comes right back to him because he's all about himself on these things. And I got to tell you, Stugotz, I stand wildly corrected here. I accuse that of being his 1992 Barcelona Olympics gift bag. Was that 92? Do I have the year wrong? 90?
Yeah, it was 92.
I think it was 92 Barcelona. Yeah. He still has that bag, though.
He has it and brings it in often, and it's battered and it shows. My guess is, put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Do you have any bags that are 30 years old? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Any bags? That is your phone. That is a $5 Venmo fine for Greg Cody. Keep the phone on for a second and pay that fine. We're done with the not paying a fine.
I'd like to challenge that fine, though. I mean, he's coming in, he's rushed, he's out of breath.
No. What do you mean you like
bad traffic, a meteor?
Well,
right.
let's talk about the meteor for a second, because Greg Cody made that as a joke, and I'm not sure he's aware. And Stugotz has been railing about this for a while. And I tell you, America, pay attention to this man. He was way out in front on Elon Musk, like ahead of the world on this. And something else he's been ahead of the world on is
the Chiefs.
Why? Also the Chiefs, yes. Why don't we pay more attention when there's the risk of a meteor or an asteroid hitting the Earth? Now, hold on, Tony, before you wave your hand at me. Last week, for reasons that I'm having trouble explaining, it was reported by NASA that in 2032, there is a 1.6% chance of an asteroid between 100 and 300 feet, so as large as a football field, hitting the Earth. And then the next day it became 1.9% chance.
Wow.
And then it elevated a couple of days later to 2.3% chance.
Jesus.
And so I'm just curious. What do you, Tony, why are you...
Don't worry about that, Dan, okay? You worry about a lot of things. One thing you do not have to worry about is an asteroid hitting the world, okay? You don't have to worry about that. When we talk about asteroids and we talk about space, okay, they're like, oh, there was a near miss of an asteroid. It was 998 million miles away. It just missed us. We can't believe it. So it's like, oh, there's a 2% chance that a football field-sized asteroid is going to hit us, but it's going to miss us by 40 million miles.
Yeah. I like those odds.
Me too, Greg.
2%. Yeah, I'll take those odds. And the other thing is this.
But the odds are climbing.
Thank you.
1.6 to 2.1. I like those odds.
Yeah, but also, what are you, Stugotz, or Dan Le Batard going to do about it, other than panic for 10 years about it? Are you going to build a rocket ship and go out there and, like, deflect?
Somebody is.
You guys can literally do nothing about this whatsoever, so why even stress it? If we're going to send a Ben Affleck out there and they're going to blow it up and save humanity, that's for someone else to figure out how to do. That's not for you to figure out. That's not for Dan to figure out. 2%. Don't think about it.
Yeah. I'm more worried about a nuclear missile from North Korea, to be honest with you. And here's why. An asteroid the size of a football field is relatively small, right? And the U.S. military has the wherewithal to shoot that down when it is hundreds of miles away. And what you get, instead of an asteroid hitting the Earth, you get a million different little pieces of charcoal, and a couple of them might land in your backyard.
Hopefully in the barbecue.
Yeah, and it would be charcoal.
You're speaking like a real expert on how this goes.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm aware.
Right. What does that mean? Can you? What do you mean?
He's aware.
What are you aware of?
You think the military does not have the wherewithal to shoot down a small asteroid?
I'm not certain. I mean, that's my concern. Does anyone have a plan? They just talk about the asteroid coming near Earth by 2000. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's a good question.
Look, okay, let's just settle down for just a second, because I thought when some of our nation's foremost scientists, right? I'm not quoting the Weekly World News here. It's NASA. Like maybe we don't know a lot about space, but I trust that those people know more about that stuff than we know. Okay, maybe not. Maybe Billy has more expertise.
Well, we haven't been to the moon in about 70 years, so he kind of stops progress there.
That's weird, by the way.
Exactly right.
Figure it out.
What do they know? They know something.
They've known something for a long time.
Something spooked them very clearly. They said, you know what?
We're good.
Too close to the sun, literally, while they were moving in the opposite direction.
But if the result of my fear and Stugotz's fear and Greg Cody's fear is that Billy Gill, of all people, steps forward and says, let me be your fear coach. And tells us there's nothing to worry about, as I would say I'm not going to say our industry's chief warrior, but in this environment, you're not the...
No, you are, Dan. You've surpassed me.
Okay. So you and me are the chief warriors, and I'm over here talking about the asteroid with my friends, and you're over here auditioning to be promoted for fear coach. Like that you're going to say that because you can control something, you shouldn't worry about it. Yes, there's enlightenment on the other side of that. That is absolute. That's the serenity.
Death,
that's
probably.
the serenity prayer.
If it hits us, we're screwed, right?
It doesn't matter if we hit us.
I can't actually do anything to stop it from hitting us. And also, by the way, and I don't listen, I'm not going to pretend to be a military expert, but North Korea isn't where we ourselves need to worry about the missiles coming from, right? They don't have a long-range missile enough that's going to hit Miami.
Yeah, but they got a crazy man running the country.
Yeah, but it'll hit somewhere else in the country, which,
and they're the only ones.
Not good, but also not us. Cuba's what we got to keep an eye on, you know what I mean?
Okay. Wow.
There was a missile crisis not too long ago.
Was that you, or was that somebody
Just
under
saying,
the breath?
got some of these ships going around the Gulf of America.
Don't worry, guys. MIT said not to worry about it until 2028, and that's when they'll have a better sense for the actual.
All right. Then we can wait.
Situation.
Okay.
So we've got time.
So we're early.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to worry right up until someone tells me it's gone away.
Don't worry until 2028.
What a crazy time.
Then you can worry.
Mr.
Or
Calm
not
over
worry.
here.
They might tell. They literally said not to worry.
Right.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yet.
Go ahead and put it in your calendars. Let's see if we get an alert on our phones that 2028. That's good. That's good to know. So we don't have to worry now. We can wait till 2028.
When's it supposed to hit?
32.
By 32.
December
4 years of worrying after that?
2032, I believe.
Wake me up in 2031.
Billy, I don't know who this new you is. No,
What am I supposed to do, honestly, about this meteor? If I see it in the sky, I'm like, ooh, that's not good. And I'll panic then, but, I will die of a heart attack overthinking it and panicking before I die of it hitting us.
Right. I'm with Dan, though. This calm, collected, cool
Yeah.
Billy. It's Billy Chill.
They said it's not a dinosaur-killing asteroid, which was 10 kilometers in diameter, but it can do some serious damage. In the unlikely event the asteroid is on a path to hit Earth, they said scientists will be able to predict when and where it will hit, allowing people to be evacuated or even possibly deflecting the asteroid's orbit.
Well, there you go. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here.
Well,
Right.
you articulating a lack of worry. I would like
Point A to point B.
would like our show to produce Billy's. So I've enjoyed how you do the reads. You have you add some personality to the
I can
reads
shill it like no one else.
where it's
Attaboy.
distinctly you, and so it's funny in there. And I want to see if we can get you to be somebody who soothes people about whatever their anxieties there are, because it is a life truth and life wisdom that you just pointed out that yes, you will not be plagued by worry or anxiety. Your life will be happier if you do not worry about the things that you cannot control. Like you hear athletes say
Within
that
reason.
all the time. Well,
Controllables.
no, but you say
Yeah.
within reason. But when I was saying the serenity prayer, it's all about being able to have the clarity to figure out what's the stuff I can control and what's the stuff that I can't control. But when it comes to anxiety, and I ask this question sincerely because when you say that I've become our chief worrier, this is my first conscious experience with anxiety. Whenever talking about anxiety before in my life, it was something that I was separating myself from. I was being empathetic about. It was over there. This is what I imagine this feels like to blah, blah, blah. In my case, I'm not good at recognizing my anxieties. And so if I'm not good at recognizing my anxieties, then I'm not good at then figuring out what can I control, what can't I control. How anxious do you guys view yourselves as? Do you all have good self-awareness about how anxious you are? Because worry can be solved. Worry can be solved if you have the conscious presence to know that you're wasting your time worrying. But I don't think it stops any of us from worrying. I think it creates a great deal of unhappiness, the fact that you're always worried about something.
Yeah, most people worry too much. Anxiety is a real problem. But in this case, I reiterate, now there are asteroids out there flying around that are the size of small planets. Mm-hmm. Okay, if a small planet is hitting the Earth, I worry about that.
Right.
100-yard-long asteroid is small.
Right.
It's a small thing. And I just...
Going at a great speed.
Going at a great speed.
Yes.
Well, this is the modern age, though, okay? If an asteroid was coming at us back in the Old West, we'd have to try to lasso it with a rope.
That's true.
It wouldn't work.
Right.
Now the technology says you shoot it down, right? I mean,
we should try the lasso again, though. That would be cool.
It would.
To answer your question, Dan, therapy is very helpful to me in not just giving me coping tools for my anxiety, but also when I do think something in my head, like what if an asteroid hits Earth in 8 years, I can then picture my conversation with my therapist and how hard she'd laugh at me for having that thought. And then the thought just sort of passes through and I never think about it again.
Right. Why is it that all of us do what Greg Cody does, which is whatever future problem we have, often the future that can't be totally seen, we'll shoot it down with lasers. We'll fix it with whatever our future lasers are.
Sure.
Our government will do it.
Right. Send a platoon of drones.
Right.
Our military.
The drones will take care of it.
Yeah.
Got a lot better at just addressing that stuff head on. Therapy's really helped with that.
Yeah, although
do it right away.
There was one session I had in 2020 where I was telling a different therapist that I have since not continued to see, like, hey, have you heard about this COVID thing in China? And he laughed at me and was like, you don't need to worry about that. And then 3 weeks later, we were in lockdown for the next year and a half.
Wow.
Well, there you go. You worry about it when it comes.
Yeah.
Good therapist.
These aren't Greg's problems, though. That's why he's not so worried about the asteroid in 8 years. I mean,
I may or may not be around.
Well, that's the thing.
I told you when I got my new dog, I'm like, will my dog outlive me?
Jumpin' Charlie?
Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever had that thought. Jumpin' Charlie turns 3 next month, and we're going to have a big party. I think all of you are invited. It's going to be a big-ass party for Charlie, so we're looking forward to that.
You think we're all invited?
I'm not in charge of the invitations.
Right.
I have a staff that handles all that. So.
Greg Cody is a big dog guy. I am surprised that Jumpin' Charlie is another dog that he has brought into his life to care for. He has fallen in love with that dog. The dog is annoying. The dog will not behave. But he's a dog lover. And Monty the Schnauzer. The Schnauzer is the most magical of the dogs.
Yes.
But Monty the Schnauzer has now has won the It's the champion Schnauzer. It is the best of all of the dogs.
He won Best of Show at the Westminster Kennel Club show, which is the Super Bowl of dog shows. I know there's a lot of derivatives now, a lot of competition, others, national dog shows. The Westminster is the Cadillac, the king of dog shows. And this dog, I'd never heard of a giant Schnauzer. I don't like dogs with giant in the name because like a standard poodle is a little tiny poodle that's like the size of a horse. My Nana and Pop Doogie had a giant poodle, and it was just freaky. Every time you went over there, it's like a poodle on steroids. It's a poodle the size of a pony. But congratulations to the giant Schnauzer. Handsome dog.
Bit pretentious looking, though, if we're going to be honest.
The Schnauzer?
Yeah, a small Schnauzer's fine. When it gets, like you're saying, big like that, a bit much.
I agree with you.
Is it the goatee? He's got like a little goatee hanging down. I think that's what it is.
The hair combed to the side at the top. There's just a lot of it where you can sense like judgment coming from that dog.
When you say bit pretentious, isn't that what we're going for on the high end of what that show is? I thought when you're calling it Westminster, if you call anything Westminster, cheese, whatever. It's on the fancy end. Whatever Westminster, whatever is making something better.
Cheese.
Yes, yeah, whatever. Yes, if I had some Westminster brand cheese.
Sounds good.
Look, okay, wait a minute. If we're doing word association, okay, Westminster is a word that I almost only associate with this dog show, and therefore it's highfalutin.
Right.
It is to treat your animals this way is a study in excess, and I thought the whole point was to be pretentious. It's essentially equestrian for dogs.
Yep.
When I think of Westminster, I think of Alex Rodriguez too.
Yeah, there you go. Westminster Christian. I think of Westminster Abbey.
Yeah.
Back in 2022, a bloodhound won. There was a Pekingese in 2021. A Fox Terrier in 2019, German Shepherd in 2017. There's all sorts of. There's a Beagle in 2015. Dan,
no, but
all
they are,
sorts of different dogs.
But they're all purebreds.
Well, yeah, of
they're
course.
not going to let Willow win the Westminster.
A mutt's
dog
never
show.
winning.
No,
right.
never.
Well, this is America, Dan.
And there's all sorts of ethical concerns with breeding purebred animals and health effects.
Is it true? What is the highest ranking mutt there's ever been? Like, what is the success story of the
Willow.
Westminster dog show? I don't believe that is an official classification.
She's famous. She's on this show.
Yes, you mentioned that, but there's another dog on the show now that is not quite
Who's this
as
guy?
famous. I don't know. Is that a guy? Is that a boy? Is that?
No, it's Sasha. It's still
Okay.
Sasha.
Who's this dog?
She's my friend.
Which just came out of nowhere. We're in the commissary. We're in the Eden area. All of a sudden, I look down. There's a little dog. I'm like, we usually have the big dog. The big dog's not here. The little dog's here. Now, who's this little dog?
Joe Rose.
They'll both be here tomorrow.
I'm looking up a list of famous mutts on petplace.com. There's a whole list here. Spike from Old Yeller was a mutt.
The question I guess I'm asking you is, what is the greatest underdog story in the history of the Westminster Dog Show? A not purebred who climbs to the highest of rankings and competes and makes the crowd gasp because he or she was dirty and somehow made it to the top of the food chain.
I don't think that's ever happened.
Apparently, a mixed breed dog last year in 2024 won the agility competition at the Westminster Kennel Club.
I don't like any of that story.
Win the whole thing. I mean, Jesus.
I don't like the way those words came together.
Well, what I know about that dog show is that the agility thing is the single most impressive thing in the dog show. That if we're classifying these animals for being beautiful, the thing that they do on the agility drills suggests a discipline that makes me very frustrated with my own dog. And I can't imagine how it is that Greg Cody experiences Jumpin' Charlie, because Jumpin' Charlie is a bad boy.
No.
Yes.
It's a good dog.
Yeah, good dog.
Yeah.
No,
JC.
wait.
He's a good dog.
Yeah, JC.
Yeah.
Greg.
Dogs want to be dumb, Dan. I don't know if you know that. If you have a good boy, a good girl, they're dumb. The smart dogs, they're not living
Jumping
happy
Charlie
lives.
is not a good boy.
It's jumping.
Jumping.
There's no G.
Apostrophe.
That's a fine. Yeah. That's a fine.
Mm-hmm.
Did you pay your fine?
You have to send it on Venmo.
I'm about to.
You don't need to reach into your pocket.
As I recall, my fine is under dispute, raised by my attorney, Stugotz.
Thank you.
Who says that because of the hurly-burly nature of my arrival.
Yep.
He's not in charge. He's not qualified. Him leveling an appeal or a challenge means nothing.
Yeah, speak to my attorney.
I think I'm in charge today, right? Why did you take Greg's phone to pay your fine? Greg is then
I'm going to pay both of them. I'm going to pay his fine and my fine.
You're going to pay it?
Good.
Wow, thank you, Dan.
Wow.
Look how easy Venmo makes
I'll owe
this.
Dan money.
Unreal. Yeah.
I am not going to
Put it on my tab.
Nope, I'm not going to. I'm going to pay for yours on your Venmo, which I was told. Chris told me that your wife actually now has installed it.
You don't know how to get to my phone.
Yeah. Well, he's
I've got
holding
it
it
right
right
in
now.
my-
He grabbed it from
Right,
you.
but you need his
I don't know
code.
if you saw that.
Good luck guessing my code.
Really, 1440? You think it's going to be that hard? You think it's going to be really tough? Do you?
See if you're right.
Is that what it is?
Of course, it's every.
It can't be that. It can't be that obvious.
Way to reveal
you
all
guys
my
may-
private
you-
information.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Edit
you
that
just
out.
He stopped himself. Dan
You
stopped
committed a
himself short on
crime,
that.
I think.
Edit that out.
1440.
That's right. For those of you who do not know that reference, I will tell you that story because it's one of the favorites I've ever told around here about Greg Cody. There was a very acerbic Minnesota Tribune columnist named Tom Powers, who was bitter from 30 years of Minnesota cold. And Greg Cody, in a really heartfelt moment, and I'm pretty sure that Greg Cody shut down emotionally after this in almost every way so that he becomes the man that you see before you today. But Greg Cody very emotionally was telling me and Tom Powers at a table about how he wanted to write a book, the book 1440, of his family, of his life, of the nostalgia, the romance, the mysticisms and the mysteries. And Tom Powers looks up at him, and the only thing Tom Powers says to an emotional Greg Cody is, "That sounds duller than dog shit."
What the hell does he know?
Powers was drunk at the time.
Probably.
Tom Powers is a great name for a fullback.
Yeah, it is.
It is. I have to admit. I give him credit for that. But
Put it on the poll, please.
Or a porn star.
Juju at Le Batard Show. Better occupation for someone named Tom Powers, fullback or porn star? At Le Batard Show. Greg Cody left here the other day, and I have remorse that I didn't get to this during Tuesday's show, because Greg Cody, who just belches content wherever it is that he goes, left on the table after Tuesday's show the following. He says, "I think Tiger Woods should be allowed to play golf the rest of the way using a golf cart."
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Stugotz and I are simpatico on that.
Yes.
First of all, everybody should be allowed to use a golf cart. It's ridiculous in 2025 that you have a bunch of golfers trailed by their manservant carrying their heavy bag, walking a 4,000-yard course, slowing the game down. It's ridiculous. Drive a cart like the rest of us. It would make pro golf more relatable to people. But if they're not going to make it universal, you make an exception for Tiger Woods.
You do. And I think the PGA Tour, the other players on tour would be okay with this because you want Tiger in the tournaments. Tiger would never do it. He would never, ever take a golf cart. But I think if Tiger wants to be involved in these majors, wants to have a chance in these majors for the next 2 or 3 years, he needs to do it in a golf cart. The problem for Tiger is he cannot walk the course anymore. He just can't get around the course. Who was that?
It's his phone.
No, but that's you. You're doing that.
That code worked. The code work. I was joking.
Well, yeah, Dan, it's the last 4 digits of his social security number. Of course it worked.
I was
I'll
joking.
be changing that code.
You don't know how.
I can't believe what you've done to this man. He's going to have to change every password he has.
What I've done to him.
It's identity theft, I think.
Anyone who knows the inner jokes of this show would absolutely know. I didn't know the code.
It would never occur to me.
I cracked the code by cracking the coding.
Greg Code.
Mm-hmm. That's what they called him. I found your Toomey bag online, Greg, if you want to know
Yeah,
how much it's
I'd love
worth.
to know.
If it's the model that I found, which is known as the Alpha.
Ooh.
Your Alpha retails here on Toomey.com at $575.
That can't be true.
Yeah.
Why not?
It's a bag.
Let me see. Pass
Chris got
Stugotz
it for
the
you?
Alpha.
It's a
Yeah.
designer
give me the Alpha.
bag.
Let's see
Are
the
you
Alpha.
judging
the
your
Alpha
son?
bag.
Let's see the Alpha. I mean, probably TJ Maxx.
You don't think Chris
like,
does
let's say
well
one-
for himself, Greg?
172
Marshall
or
for
something.
sure.
Exactly right.
Probably a little less.
You go over to the
Sale-
luggage
on
section.
sale, $50 probably.
Maybe.
And yeah, he had Yeti find it.
Let's see that. Hold on. That may not be the Alpha after all. Hold on a second.
That looks like a beta,
Not the Alpha.
not the
No?
Alpha. Yeah, no.
Let me see.
Alpha's
Hold that
gotta be
up.
bigger.
Hold that up. No, that's not the Alpha.
Yeah, it's not.
I'll keep looking. I'm on it, Greg.
Alpha's
Don't
got
you worry.
3 sections, I think.
Dog
that
of
one's
the
only
bone
got
on this
1.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably used.
Possibly.
You have
Probably
not
secondhand.
downloaded Venmo. You have not downloaded the app.
Arlene
you have not
did.
tried. No, nobody did.
Someone
Way-
did.
Way to
No,
root through my phone.
Yeah. This is
Look
an
at this
invasion
guy.
of privacy
the
or
nerve,
something.
The
Yeah.
nerve of this man.
All right, I have an idea. Dan, you Venmoed Greg's fine, and then he'll Venmo you to cover for the fine that you Venmoed
No,
for him.
not going to do it that way. I appreciate
Why?
you just trying to get us from A to B. That
I'm just
way.
trying to make
Yes,
sure we get
officially.
these
I'm
fines
just
paid,
gonna
keep
do it on
things
his
moving.
phone, and
Tell you guys this episode of the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Just kind of getting point A to point B. You know what I mean?
Okay, now I have the problem of it's asking me to enter the password to his Apple account, and it's going to send something to his email that has upset bird in it.
I would
cooked.
do maybe Jumpin' Charlie 1440. Maybe add a symbol at the end.
JC, yeah.
All right, this is going to be harder than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay,
Look at this guy plumbing through my personal matters on the phone, while the other guy's looking through my documents in my travel bag,
Yeah,
or whatever
your
you call
Toomey.
that. What do
Yeah.
you call something like that? A satchel?
I think you just got to call it a Toomey. Once you have a Toomey, you just say my Toomey.
Yeah?
Yeah.
My homie.
Here are the only documents I found.
Yeah.
Look at this. Amazingly,
Ooh, what
the
are
only
those?
documents in the Toomey bag are a bunch of
Oh,
Greg Cody
stickers.
Show
That's currency.
stickers.
Damn
There
right.
it is.
When in Rome.
Greg
Yeah.
Cody
When the
Show.
meteorite
Look at
hits,
this.
people are going to be clamoring for
There it
those.
is, ladies and gentlemen. These
Thank
are
you.
very valuable. These are artifacts. What is on the Greg Cody Show featuring Greg Cody?
Yeah, by the way, those stickers are for sale in our merch store for the low, low price of $1 each.
Wow.
We have Izzy on, our friend of the show, FOS Izzy Gutierrez. We talk a lot about the Super Bowl, which came out, was the day before we recorded, and, you know, fun stuff. I make a point that the Heat hit a home run with the whole Butler trade. I had to be negotiated down to a solo home run.
A home run.
A short porch solo home
That's,
run.
That's
Yeah.
that's a bloop single. A home run.
A
Short
bloop
porch.
single.
Yeah, it's a home run. What are you
Wiggins is an under 30 guy who's made an all-star
Wait-
team.
wait a minute,
A better than average defender. Mitchell is a supreme defender,
Yes,
arguably one of the best in the league.
And yesterday they scored 8 points.
King.
They scored 8 points in the fourth quarter after having another
The
game.
Thunder are really good, Dan. We mentioned it yesterday.
Right, and they got a
real
real
good.
pick.
Best team ever.
Yes, the Thunder are real good, and through 3 quarters, the Heat led by 10, and
Yeah,
then
they
the Thunder scored 7,000 straight
But
points.
we'll have those 3 quarters forever, Dan. Just like we had 22-13 in that first game, we'll have those 3 quarters forever.
They're a quarter away.
Oh,
the Heat, and it's an 8-point fourth quarter, which I didn't think they could do worse than the 9-point fourth quarter. But give them time. Give them time, because that's with Hero and Bam and what he's calling a home run of a trade.
Yeah.
A home run. Greg, a home run?
Short porch, he said, though.
Okay, here the alternative to that trade is they don't trade Butler. He stays on the team, poisons the rest of the season, and then leaves in free agency, and they get nothing for him. 0. What they did instead was they get rid of this toxic personality, and they get a good player, a great defender, and a first-round draft pick.
They did have more options than that to start the season.
Short porch.
Short porch.
Oh, yeah, I'm not retrofitting
It was a 3-2 count at this point in time.
Yeah, that's right.
I see that Nick Wright has popped up here, and we will get to him in a moment. I'm interested in a few things about Nick Wright. I'm interested in how he's experienced the last few days of turbulence and heartbreak, but I'm also genuinely interested in what he thinks when I ask you guys the question, does Travis Kelce leave that game and say those guys are better than we are? And if we played that game 100 times, that's how that would play out, because Andy Reid and Spags and Mahomes, there's not a thing they would figure out for that pass rush is getting there against 6 guys every time with 4 guys. And so I actually want to break down how do you hold the Kansas City Chiefs to 23 yards in a first half? Does that mean that Sirianni knows something that Andy Reid and Spags didn't know?
Well, I think he has the thing that you're talking about. He has the ability to rush that quarterback with 4 pass rushers, and that's a great ability to have. Maybe the most important thing in the NFL.
Fangs knows something. Even though we want to continue to discredit Fangs on this show.
But how can Kelce walk away thinking anything other than that team is a lot better than ours? I mean,
well, we'll see, because athletes are really confident, and those guys had to, be really confident to be champions, thinking that they're better than everyone. But when you say, Billy, that I keep discrediting.
No, I said we.
Okay.
We
keep discrediting Fangs. When a guy doesn't have to blitz all game and he's getting pressure with 4 all game, how much does the defensive coordinator have to do? When, I'm asking, I'm asking genuinely.
Oh, geez.
It's a game plan, Dan. They chose not to blitz.
Okay, but I mean, how many choices is he making? It didn't feel like Philadelphia was being fooled by anything.
Philadelphia is not being fooled by anything whatsoever.
Well, what are you saying?
They dominated.
Right. You're saying Fangs had nothing to do with it? It's Howie Roseman and the roster construction, which I think is the most important part of the Eagles team.
The part that I'm interested in discussing with Nick Wright, and we'll see what he has to say about all of this, is just the idea of a champion of 3 years, very worthy champion of 3 years, that had a constipated offense this year and didn't have a running game, could have done any number of things differently. But do you think the result would have been a lot different? That there would have, whatever things it is you guys are scheming up. Yes, Patrick Mahomes cannot have the 2 turnovers, sure, but those 2 turnovers are being caused by an unrest that we're not used to seeing from Patrick Mahomes. It was caused by something. It's not Patrick Mahomes suddenly forgot how to be a quarterback who's won 17 postseason games.
It was caused by Fangs.
It seems like that there's a button that the defensive coordinator presses that says blitz. And that's all they do during a game, is either they hit the button or they don't hit the button.
I understand that you're making fun of how simplified that is, and I do want to play some sound of Dominique Foxworth talking about how analytics have come to make the sport somehow less interesting to watch. But when you're talking about you get pressure with 4, it just makes a defensive coordinator's job very easy after that.
Right.
No matter what buttons he's pressing, they're going to look like they're the right buttons that have been pressed.
Can you blame Kansas City coming off back-to-back Super Bowls if they think to themselves collectively, if we play that team again next week, we're going to win? Okay, it's sports. You have aberrations in results. If the teams played again next week, it wouldn't shock me in the least if the Chiefs beat the Eagles.
I know, but Greg, a lot of teams could say that. If the Ravens play the Eagles this week, the Ravens would think they're going to win.
Right.
The Bills would
So
think
would the
they're going to
Bills.
win. The Bengals would think they're going to win.
Well, let's not get carried
They would
away.
think it, though. Joe Burrow would think it. I mean, he would.
I think the tough part is, obviously, the Eagles did a lot of great additions defensively with drafting a lot of guys. Cooper DeJean, they had Quinyon Mitchell, two incredible guys in their secondary. They were missing Nakobe Dean, too, who was out. Zach Bond was an incredible pickup for them. Their defensive line is great. Fangs was able to do stuff. During the watch-along that we had, Buffalo versus Kansas City, Mina said, hey, he didn't do that bad of a job, Fangs, in Miami. It was just a lot of injuries, a lot of weird stuff. He didn't have a lot of relationship with Jalen Ramsey. But we look at the Chiefs side, and I feel bad saying this because Nick Wright is over our shoulder. They were 12-0 in one-score games this year. That easily could have been a team that went 5-12. Right? Like, we're looking at a team that if things go the opposite way, this is a laughing stock of a team that doesn't make the playoffs.
That is a good place to enrage Nick Wright. I can't even imagine.
You like that, right?
In fact, let's go off the air right now. We will prepare. But you just saying to Nick Wright, who came on
You like
here.
that?
Nick Wright came on here. You're inciting him. You've lit a fuse that you're saying that Nick Wright, who was saying this is about to be a team for all time, best team ever when you win 3 straight, you're saying they could have been 5-12.
Could have been 5-12.
All right, just to be clear, Nick Wright, his face is going to explode next. Look at him. Look at him. He's ready. Tony is angling to be a Nick Wright rival. He says he's trying to incite the vanquisher to bring him out. Go ahead, Nick. What did you think? I saw you waiting, and I saw you getting agitated while we were talking. What are your thoughts? And welcome. Nice seeing you.
You too. Well, I was a little agitated, but only because I couldn't hear the content. So I don't know what you guys were talking about. And you and I, I'm a bad texter, but I assume you brought me on. Talk about that Bronny James step back. Oh, is LeBron such a bad dad now? Oh, young kid, got his sea legs under him out here cooking. We don't want to talk about any other alleged GOAT's children on this show. I know that, but my goodness gracious, how are you guys? I don't know what else. It's basketball season.
I'm sorry.
Basketball season.
Sorry for your loss.
You've transitioned, huh?
Well, Oh, you want to talk about the Super Bowl? I mean, you guys are forward. This is new media. It's Thursday. We're in the 2025 football season. But I suppose we could look back. Dan, I should have known this might happen. And I'm going to show you why. I'm going to reach behind me and hold up the thing I've always wanted my entire life. Because I'm a child of the 80s. I respect physical print media.
Wow, a newspaper.
And days before the Super Bowl.
It's been a while.
This was in the Washington Post. You see that glorious picture right there? And if my life were a movie, that would have been the culmination of the montage of endless winning.
By the way,
knows.
I need to tell people who didn't see the blur there that's a feature story on you, correct? In
a Louis Vuitton jacket.
That's you.
It's a feature story on me in a Louis Vuitton jacket that I bought from a guy in Copenhagen a year ago to wear to the Chiefs parade. About how. Listen. I don't. You guys can make fun of me all you want. I am an open book on this show. I think one of the reasons I come on this show, other than the fact that I love Dan, is I think it makes me more humanized. Now, do I occasionally imply to the audience I might have a little dispensable income to buy Louis Vuitton jackets from Europe or to gamble? Sure. But the audience gets it. I've deserved it. I've worked hard. Back to the story.
Yeah.
So, I've always wanted that. I've always wanted a newspaper article I can put in my office about me in the Times, the Post, something. And the story was... The gist of it was my career arc and a career theoretically taking off right alongside my hometown Chiefs team took off. It was almost too good to be true. And then it was. And now I have to deal with one of the worst Super Bowl performances of all time, which I can deal with. But what I am not as prepared to deal with as I shake in preemptive anger is folks that either just started watching football or total morons or just don't care about the truth, acting like, well, if a quarterback's that good, does he ever have that bad of a playoff game? And the answer is yes, every single one of them always. So I'm doing okay.
Before you came on, Tony was saying that because of the one-score game and 12-0, that the Chiefs could have easily been 5-12 this year.
Okay, yeah. I mean, listen... That's why Tony's on that side of the room. To not really pepper in those sports
come
takes.
on, Nick.
I mean, the thing is, like, I like Tony, but I'm just telling you, yes, I agree that if you turned their wins into losses, their record would have been worse.
That's all I'm saying.
It's definitely
all right.
true.
So, but what is the explanation, though, Nick? Because I was saying if you keep playing that game, I think it's going to keep going that way. I don't think Mahomes forgot how to play football. I don't think Andy Reid and Spags became stupid. I think Spags stopped what the Eagles do best, and I didn't think that anybody could do that. And what happened after that is just you got mauled the way every team would get mauled if those were the discrepancies on both lines.
So here's the thing, though. Those discrepancies shouldn't have been that. It shouldn't have been that big of an edge. The Eagles in the Super Bowl 2 years ago had the most sacks of any team in 30 years, or since the late 80s, I should say. So more than that. The Eagles this year were middle of the pack in sacks, and the Chiefs, while they had an issue at left tackle, and so they slid their guard over to tackle, it's not like they were the worst offensive line in football. We went into the 2020 Super Bowl saying, oh man, you got 4 backups on the offensive line. That could go poorly, and it did. So I credit the Eagles players and game plan and execution. But to answer your question, it's why it went the way it did is a twofold reason that we actually oddly have, for both of the two reasons I'm about to give you, an exact one-to-one corollary for it. Which was, the first reason is a very, very simple one that not that smart people will say to try to sound really smart, which is, if you can get home with 4, you really can hurt the great quarterbacks. Like, yeah, no shit, man. Yep. We understand the math of the game. The idea always, imagine if you could get home with 1. You drop 10. Like, the fewer you have to send and still create the pressure, the better it is. And the other reason is, for the first time all year, the moment got too big for him. And that, to me, and that includes Patrick. And people can say, oh, well, that's disqualifying. But here's the one-to-one example. Both of those exact two things, to the letter, happened in the only other football game of my life, not Greg Cody's life because his team did it, of my life, where a team walked onto the field and knew, if we win today, we're the greatest team of all time. How did the 07 Patriots unstoppable team lose? The Giants got home with 4, and Brady got shaky. and they only scored 14 points. They walked into that game knowing we win today, we're the greatest team of all time. How did the 2024 Chiefs lose? Eagles got home with 4, and the moment of we walk off the field today with a win, we're not the greatest single season team of all time, but we're the greatest team of all time this three-peat, and the moment got too big for him. And so that is what it is. It's heartbreaking that they played their worst game in the biggest moment, but the Eagles deserve credit, and I'm glad you pointed out the thing about Spags. I feel like the only Chief, and I'm sure he doesn't, but person involved with the Chiefs that could sleep easy was Spagnuolo, who did do a great job at what everyone, myself included, thought the key to the game would be, which is, can you slow down Barkley? They didn't slow down Barkley. They shut down Barkley, and it didn't matter.
Nick, you said earlier that, some of the great quarterbacks of all time have had a bad playoff game. And you're right, for the most part. Mahomes has had 2 now, and he's done it in the Super Bowl. He was bad against Tampa. Yeah. He was bad against Philadelphia. Twice now, Nick.
But we remember, the Tampa game's not fair, right? Like, he was running in circles toward his own end zone.
He had a rating of 32.3 in the game.
But
Stugotz, hold on. Let me respond to both of these. Stugotz, you care about his passer rating in this game because it wasn't that bad? Or are you going to say, no, I watched the game, I know he played terribly? Because that's what I would say. But the numbers, look at the numbers. So don't do that. Don't be like, for this game, the numbers don't matter. And for the Tampa game that we all saw, the numbers do matter, because that would be ludicrous. However, let's talk about it. Because you're right. So let's just say the Tampa game was a terrible game. And you said most quarterbacks have had terrible playoff games. No, all quarterbacks have had terrible playoff games. And we do this weird thing, and this oddly does somehow end up coming down to what all sports conversations come down to, which is the lionization of Michael Jordan's career has polluted how everyone views sports, which is why when Tom Brady was going for the three-peat, and he played terribly and threw a pick 6 to let the game get out of hand and lost to Jake Plummer, no one cares because it was in round 2. And Joe Montana, when in the smack dab middle of his career, 3 straight years in the playoffs, 3 straight one-and-dones, 3 straight playoff games with 0 touchdowns total, 3 straight playoff games where back-to-back playoff games where his team scored 3 points, 3 straight playoff games where they were outscored by a combined 102-40. We can all be like, man, Joe Cool never played poorly in the Super Bowl. Well, maybe he would have if he hadn't played so terribly that they got whacked 49-3 in round 1. And so what we're not going to do is act like if you play your worst game of the year to prevent you from getting to the Super Bowl, that's fine. But if you play really well to get there and then play poorly, that's different. That's ludicrous. That would mean it would have been better for Patrick this year had he choked against Josh Allen last round instead of outplayed him and beaten him for the 4th time in the playoffs. Intellectually, we all know that's true, that each round you win is better than losing in that round. Why don't we accept that? Well, that's actually a Michael Jordan story.
Is Patrick Mahomes done?
I'm glad we have what Michael Jordan thinks about this. I didn't think we'd get to that point soon enough. You're red-faced, Nick. You're red-faced, and you're annoying again, because you're not wrong in what you're saying, but you're coming on here and you've been so wrong about how that was all going to end, that I think people want to see you batted around the way that you were on your own show.
Wrong, so here's the thing: how wrong I was compared to my contemporaries is actually the exact same logical argument. The question: am I more wrong for picking the Chiefs to make and win the Super Bowl than the folks, not naming names, but Rex Ryan and others, who said they were going to go one and done? Was I more wrong for having the wrong winner in the Super Bowl when I had the right team in it than Draymond Green, who said, I've seen teams like this, they get beat in the first round? So again, I get it. The stage gets bigger, the audience gets larger, so people have more eyes on it. And I've got to eat this one. And if people watch First Things First, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern on FS1, you should check it out. Well, I literally had confetti cannon shot in my face on national television. Yes. I had the runner-up of American Idol sing in my ear, Tom Brady is the GOAT, and I took it like a champ. Because Monday is the day for me to have to eat it. Tuesday is the day for me to kind of have to eat it. Wednesday and Thursday are the days for me to once again take on the heavy burden of the only sane person in sports media and pump the brakes on all the this never would happen to Brady. Brady threw 3 picks in the wild card round when he was 32 years old to lose to Joe Flacco. 3 picks in the first quarter, 33-14. Sorry.
I mean, it was obvious what happened in the game, which was the refs made that really bad call on the first drive, the offensive pass interference, and everyone saw, oh my God, they're gonna do this again. They're gonna give the Chiefs a Super Bowl. So the call came from New York. Hey guys, we got to make sure now that the Eagles win this game because everyone's onto us. Right. We can't let them do it again. I mean, it's very obvious what happened there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, you guys didn't have Jessica's mic on. You just had a total doofus talking for a minute there. It must not have been wires.
I mean, the jig is up. We all know it's rigged, right? Like that's what happened. Mid game, they were like, we got to rewrite a new script. We got to write a new script.
So here's the thing on that.
Oh no.
And now I'll just bring the mood of the room down.
Here we go.
I actually think engaging in any of that is tangibly bad for our business. So I don't even I think the reason we all get these awesome jobs and platforms and opportunities is because people credibly believe in the sport, and the fact that the players, the owner, the commissioner were all asked about this nonsense leading to the Super Bowl, I think was one of the true sour points of this NFL season. And again, if we the iconic image of this football game is Patrick Mahomes getting 2 hands dead to the face from Jalen Carter, and it's on NFL.com right now as like, what a play. And so we all know there's missed calls in the NFL. It's a shame to me that the Dove Kleinmans of the world have created this as a legitimate talking point.
I need to let you go now, but I think you just called.
I got 5 minutes.
Well, did you call Jess bad for business? Did you call? Is that what you just did after?
I mean, it's obviously rigged. I've been saying it all season, Dan. This is something I certainly believe in. So thank you, Nick, for really explaining to us why it's not a good thing.
No, So here's the thing, and I don't mean to be harsh. And I was joking the last time I was on about Jess being added to the rivals list, but maybe I shouldn't have been. I know you're kidding. I know you're like now patronizing me and like trying to act like I missed it. I know you're kidding. It's very rare a conversation goes on that I don't kind of see everything that's happening in it. I am simply saying I think even the joking is tangibly bad for our industry. So is Jessica individually bad for the industry?
No, you called her. You called her a doofus. You did call her a doofus.
Yeah, name calling.
He's right.
Name caller.
Well, doofus is, I think, the kindest of the insults.
Okay.
Throw that on the poll.
All right.
What's the meanest?
Put it on the poll. No, thank you, Billy. Thanks for all your help there. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is doofus the kindest of the insults? So let me let you off on this note. I wanted to talk basketball. We'll talk a number of different things. But you are choosing, I believe this is where your ego gets the best of you, as it sometimes does for all of us. You are choosing to be right and resolute in your firm belief that Kansas City Chiefs team is so good that it would never think itself a lesser team to what it is that Philadelphia was, that if they played that game 100 times, you couldn't be so wrong that they would lose it 100 times. But what you're choosing is to tell me that Patrick Mahomes straight out choked. If the moment is too big for Patrick Mahomes, then it's too big for everybody. And I think you're taking the result to do that. I don't think you actually believe that.
No, so here's what I don't say anything I don't believe. Here's what I believe. I believe the in that game, the mismatch, what played out, even though I don't think it's a on paper mismatch. The mismatch between their offensive line and the Chiefs' defensive line was going to win Philadelphia the game. Patrick playing his worst game in a couple years is what led it to be a blowout. And when you're saying if Patrick can't handle it, no one can handle it, that's why I brought up the 07 Patriots, is because every other team that has had the weight of a three-peat on their shoulders has crumbled, and every other one crumbled at a stage earlier than the Super Bowl. The closest a team ever came was the 99ers, who the third best player on their team on a very normal play just fumbled the ball with minutes left and they lost. That's how they lost. So that, like, I don't think it's an indictment on Patrick, but I do think it's the reality. And then every team that has gone for an undefeated season, except for Greg Cody's team, is 60 years ago.
How is that not?
Nick,
how is that not an indictment? You're saying that Patrick Mahomes choked. How is that not an indictment?
He's supposed to be different, Nick.
Well, hold on. He can be different than every other active quarterback and different than basically every other all-time quarterback and still not immune to any of this. Like, I felt Brady choked in 07.
Okay, but you're saying flatly that your quarterback, your beloved quarterback, a champion, that his mental strength wasn't strong enough, not just for the pass rush, for the moment.
Yeah, I think the moment got to the entire team. I do.
But that's choking. You're saying, instead of saying you're wrong, you're saying your team choked.
No, hold on. No, hold on. I am definitively wrong. I thought they would win. I thought they would win by 10. I am not running from being wrong about this football game. What I am saying is I don't look at one-off instances of shit the moment got to us as being an indictment of a player as a whole. The greatest athlete I've ever seen in my life but choked in 2011. It doesn't at all change how I view him. Now, and so, like, maybe I view it differently than others. Repeated choking is a totally different thing. And that's why you push back and I push back. I don't view this like I thought Patrick played well in the 2020 Super Bowl, and the stats don't back it up. The video does. That, to me, was not at all anything like this in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, it's not that I'm trying to slough blame onto them to save myself. I was the wrongest person in sports media about this game.
No, but Nick, I'm not talking about the game. I'm saying that to say that Patrick Mahomes choked in this spot was not mentally right for it isn't about this game. It's about your having to be wrong about what you think this team is.
No, right. And this is where I'm telling you, like, I disagree with your analysis of my analysis. I do not think there is.
What? That's a great T-shirt. That is a great T-shirt. I disagree with your analysis of my analysis.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I do. And I haven't said the word choked. You keep throwing out choked.
Then what is the moment? Come on, Nick. You haven't said it because they're your team. The moment's too big for them is saying it. Like you're just putting it in rose-colored homerism.
Oh, I reject that as well. The moment got too big.
That's
for
choking. That is choking. That's the definition.
Maybe.
Say it, Nick. Just say it. You'll feel better. You'll feel better. Just say it.
How is that not what is the definition of choking?
Well, I don't. Jess, why don't you look that up? You're not doing anything right now.
Bane was going to make a really inappropriate joke, and he decided not to.
See you later. Nick, good seeing you. Every day, 3 to 5 Eastern.
Yeah, and so, hey, and subscribe to What's Driving the Great. And lastly, who should I apologize to, Tony or Jessica? I can't have them both against me.
The doofus.
I'm good. You don't have to apologize to me.
Yeah.
Okay, Jessica, I shouldn't have called you a doofus.
I don't want an apology from you.
Whoa.
We're enemies.
Rejected.
Wow.
Rivals.
No.
Enemies.
Rivals.
Rivals.
Not enemies.
You're
You
right.
sons of bitches.
There's you and the choker. Hey.
This is unbelievable. Okay, so how did everyone think that went? He does our job for us when he comes on here. He's always entertaining. I really always enjoy listening.
I just heard
to him.
Michael Jordan so many times. I just tuned out after that.
Yeah.
I perked up.
Yeah. He called Tom Brady a choker, which I thought was an understated nugget.
Well, but can we examine this part of it for a second? Because I'm going to object to the analysis of a quarterback we were all saying before the game. Like, this is, before that game, all of us are saying, you know what? I just saw Tom Brady go to 10 Super Bowls, and he won 7 of them, and he's clearly the greatest of all the greatest, knowing how to win. But Mahomes is coming for him, and if he gets this one, I'm going to put him in the conversation because he's doing it faster. Mm-hmm. Knows how to win. The Chiefs were favored in that game because everyone bet on knows how to win. The empirics of that.
They bet on him.
Yes.
Yes.
But the money, that's unusual, right? It's one thing for gas bags to talk about a game and have an opinion about it. Where the money goes on something, we could definitively look at the analytics, and let's get that Dominique Foxworth sound so I can ask all of you guys who it is that you enjoy hearing from on football analytics that have sort of corroded the game in some sewage that I know, some learning that Greg Cody and Stugotz do not want. But the Chiefs were favored in that game by 1 point, and America would tell you that is only because Patrick Mahomes knows how to do something with Andy Reid that other teams simply don't know how to do. Like, you can analyze it all the other ways you want, but they're like, oh, we've doubted them all year. They win those 2 playoff games. They just beat the Bills. Okay, they're favored in the game. Then you watch the game, and you're like, why were they favored? And why would it be that obvious that they should not have been favored? And now we all go back and re-examine and do the thing of I agree with your analysis, but I disagree of your analysis of my analysis, which I want to be a T-shirt, by the way, at LeBatardAF.com. It's a good new show. I disagree with your analysis of my analysis is a good name for a show.
It is, yeah.
A little wordy.
Yes, agreed, but funny.
I love the wordiness.
Be like, guys, everything is an acronym. ID. A-G, there's too many letters.
Still wordy. Yeah.
It's fair to say, though, that betting line late in the week went from 2.5 to 1, which is a pretty big drop. There was a lot of late money, smart money going in on Philadelphia. I personally picked the Eagles to win. I think they had a much better roster, but I reject, as Nick Wright rejected, I reject the idea that just because you lose a game and have a bad performance, it means you choked.
Okay, but,
I don't think that's the case.
But can I do this with you guys then? Because I really do want to parse something here in the biggest game and then put it to bed. The way that the analysis works on these games where we're all talking so much about what is and isn't going to happen, what I'm asking you is, guys, you all told me, everyone said, this is a quarterback for all time on knows how to win. And now their biggest public fan is on our show saying, well, on this one time, not only did he not know how to win, he forgot all the things about knowing how to win, panicked, and then the game was over.
Wait, Eric Stonestreet came on?
So tell me what that is. Is that what we're going to do? Is that what we're going to do to his legacy? That it's one game and, I can't unsee that, and never mind all the things that I've thought about for the last 3 years. He choked. He wasn't mentally strong enough for a big moment.
The most predictable narrative in America coming out of that game was that A, the Chiefs dynasty is done, and B, here come the Eagles, the next dynasty. Neither one of those things is automatically true. And it wouldn't surprise me if both of them proved to be false. I can't overemphasize that it's sports. If the Chiefs played the Eagles next week and the Chiefs won, nobody should be surprised.
Why does it have to be one or the other? I feel like we're being put in a spot where it's like, well, if he chokes, he's going to be a choker forever. He didn't have a good game. He choked in this game, but I don't think anyone's questioning his greatness.
It's been twice now in Super Bowls where he's had a bad game.
Okay.
Nick was talking about other great quarterbacks having bad games. They weren't in Super Bowls. They were in wild card games.
But he's also won 3. Who cares? And he's probably going to win again at some point.
I think he is an all-time great. I don't think this impacts his legacy. It only impacts his legacy in terms of chasing Tom Brady. That's it. That's it.
I just think we're doing like
he's never going to catch Tom Brady.
How?
It's just the typical
Tom Brady lost to
media.
Eli Manning twice.
I understand that.
And Nick Foles.
Tom
Brady's world killers.
Tom Brady did not play that poorly as Mahomes did in this past Super Bowl.
He's
in any of those losses.
He's 29, and we're doing the sports media thing where we're judging his career when it's maybe not even halfway over. I understand, like, we need something to talk about. It was a blowout. The game was not that interesting. It wasn't that fun. After the first quarter, we were all like, yikes. But, like, he's 29. Like, what else can you say other than, like, he's probably got, like, 10-plus years of doing this.
That's no
Chances
fun,
are
he's
going to be pretty good.
That's not
I know it's not fun, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
It is the truth, and it is not fun. And when Billy says, why does it have to be one or another or the other, I would say that's another good name for a sports show. It has to be one or the other. It can't. When you ask why, no. That's the whole thing, Billy. You don't get argument television. You don't. This is another version of how are we going to morph the LeBron-Michael Jordan debate? Jessica's tuning out on Michael Jordan debates because we've been doing it on 20 years on television. No, and everybody is. Everybody's tuning out except for Stugotz.
Yeah.
Because somehow the Last Dance. Look, we'll get tired of any excellence, and now it's happened to the Last Dance. It happened to the Patriots. It happened to the Chiefs. We will bore with your excellence, and now it's happened to Michael Jordan.
This is perfect, though, right? Because LeBron, his career coming to an end. He's 40. He's about to be done. So we're not having the active LeBron chasing Jordan conversation. That's done and dusted. We need another active player chasing a ghost. Perfect insert Pat Mahomes, who's now lost a Super Bowl, and his chase against Brady. I mean, this could not be better for sports media.
Maybe all the sports commissioners come together and they script the Eagles winning this game so that we have a new debate topic. Do you ever think about that, Dan?
Okay,
this is good for basketball. This is good for football.
Everybody.
This is good for everybody. We're having GOAT debates.
Good for business.
Sports.
He accused us and you of being bad for business. He accused me of having dumb, smart analysis of pressure with 4 changes things because that's why I was.
That was a cheap shot.
It does.
Good analysis.
Yes, it is also true, but not fun. And especially not fun for Patrick Mahomes. But I want to ask you guys, based on the previous conversation that we were having about the nature of anxiety, right? Because the definition of choking is that the anxiety gets to you and you're not able to overcome it. We were talking about this earlier, and I want to ask you guys. I saw that Colin Cowherd is saying that Kevin Durant has basically ruined his career by the way that his career has played out with some of the choices that he made. But Kevin Durant, when we
10 years late to that party,
but I want to ask you about I want to ask all of you about the corrosive effects of whatever it is that makes us bore with excellence faster because the way things are just going, where it becomes so pressurized for Kevin Durant that even 4 years of winning easy basketball next to Draymond Green is something he has to say, no, I don't want to do this anymore and don't send me back there. I've told you that Udonis Haslem and Mike Miller said of that 4-year run with LeBron, that was no fun. Like we celebrate, like none of that was going to work with joy. That was all anxiety. It was overcoming anxiety, but it was all bad, the way that felt. And now Nick's telling you, do you know how hard it is to do this in the physical sport 3 straight times because of the drain of whatever the expectations are of every weekly anxiety? I know we think of these people as unhuman, as Tom Brady likes to call them. But these people were fighting through pain to get to the end of things and also dealing with whatever the repressions are of, I don't know when I'm anxious. I'm supposed to overcome anxious. My entire training is don't choke in that moment. And now the biggest Chiefs fan that there is on here saying, there was some mental frailty there. And I'm just wondering.
Paul Rudd was on?
I'm just wondering if you guys absorb the nature of the anxiety and what the accusation is when you say one of these people is not strong enough to overcome these things. Because choking, that's what you're calling that person weak. It's what you're doing.
Well, he's saying he had a weak moment, maybe.
A weak moment in a time for his legacy in the way we do the measurements.
Isn't he saying that they all had sort of a weak moment, weak game, the coaching staff, every player on the team, and Patrick Mahomes, that everybody came out and performed poorly? Because when that's the case and it's the full team and you're being pressured with 4, you're probably not going to succeed. That doesn't mean you're a choke artist now.
I think it's totally unfair to expect athletes, great athletes, to be superhuman relentlessly and not allow them the occasional bad game, albeit even if it comes in a Super Bowl. He's human. People have bad games. Saquon Barkley ran in mud. He had 57 yards on 25 carries.
The part, though, that bothers me about people have bad games, he had a bad game. There was no quarterback under that situation that was going to have a good one. He doesn't exist. He's never played the sport. And then we make our examinations after that. No one... maybe I'll say someone can play a good game because Lamar Jackson might be doing something running around away from defensive linemen that I can't explain, or Josh Allen might be able to do something, but those conditions for a quarterback in the Super Bowl, an avalanche for all of them who have ever played, and you can see it in Patrick's feet in the second quarter. It's not because he went mentally frail. It's because the Eagles did that to him.
And I think that's kind of the part that we were missing with the whole Patrick Mahomes conversation is the Eagles just had a very, very, very elite team. Top to bottom, offensively, defensively, there were no holes in that team. The one hole they had was probably their kicker, right? Every other position group is elite. And it's that's the story. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes, but insert any other quarterback, and they're having problems with Josh Sweat, with BG, with Jalen Carter, with all these guys.
Thank you, Tony. It's so weird what we're doing. We're making excuses and trying to figure out why the Chiefs lost the game. They lost the game because the Eagles are better.
Well, let me ask
better.
Let me ask you all of this because that's easy to say now. I want to tell you.
I said it before.
Yes, you were early. Yes, you were early. Yes, Greg Cody told you that he predicted the game correctly.
I did,
yes.
I predicted this game 3 years ago.
That's right. He was ahead of everybody on that. I want to tell you guys a story from when I didn't know what I was doing as I'm going to say I was 14 or 15 years old, and I was coaching a football team of, kids at a local Optimist. And that season, we went undefeated all season because I had a really good quarterback. I had the best quarterback, and we were one of the few teams that actually had an ability to have a passing offense. But and we'd beaten one team twice during the season. But this is where I realized that I was a really lousy coach. In the championship game against the team that we'd blown out with all of our fancy passing, in the second quarter of that game, I fully realized, I don't know what I'm doing. They know all the things that we're going to do, and I don't have any moves. I'm 14 years old. I just had the best quarterback, and so now I'm losing by a lot, and there is nothing I can do about it. I have no answers. I'm just watching it, and I'm like, how is this happening? That's what Andy Reid felt like on Sunday.
Wow. So you choked. That's what happened.
Well, no, I just didn't know enough.
You choked.
Right.
I didn't know enough.
So you're saying Andy Reid didn't know enough, huh?
That's choking.
You choked.
Le Batard choked in the big game.
Who lets a 14-year-old coach? Football of all
I was a
things.
very responsible
different times back
then, too. It would plague me my entire life, the ability to
you
take
as
on
coach
tests.
is funny.
Were you in a suit on the sideline? Did you have a clipboard?
Headset,
How did this work?
What'd you do?
Bike
Coach
shorts.
Dan.
I've got short shorts, tube socks, tucked in polo.
I did have bike shorts at one point.
I knew it.
I did
Red.
have-
I feel like they were red, right?
Respect the game, man.
wait a minute. I might have the shorts wrong. The coaching shorts.
Yeah, the bike ones.
We know.
Aren't
Right.
bike
But they're
shorts
short.
bicycle shorts? I thought.
No. Bike the brand.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Bike shorts are bicycle shorts.
Like Sophie's.
They're
The
they're
coaching
tight.
shorts.
Yeah, the
You guys-
coaching shorts.
Are
knew what
those-
you meant.
Are those synonyms? I'm asking.
I've never heard of bike
find out.
shorts.
Every coach has bike shorts. They're not tight bike shorts. They're the loose, but they're bike brand.
Bike the brand.
Bike
yeah.
the brand, not
they're basically,
activity.
They're like cut off baseball pants.
Yes,
essentially.
exactly. Same material, like a
Yeah.
canvas almost.
It's an important distinction.
I was babysitting Frankie Lucido, and he was an
Frankie.
excellent athlete, at least in part because every day we were doing things. Our T-ball team was able at the end of a season to actually get the third baseman to throw it to the pitcher, to throw it to the first baseman successfully to get a kid running from the tee box into the dugout instead of toward first base, because this is what I was doing with portions of my childhood. What part of this are you guys not?
You weren't eager to get your
understanding?
hand in the dirt. I mean, at 14, most kids are trying to play this sport.
I was
Right,
also
you're coaching?
I was also playing.
Player coach.
Wow.
Andy Reid.
Dandy Reid. Were you fired after that game, after
Yeah.
you blew the championship game? Do they fire 14-year-olds? Because I feel like
you should have been fired.
Yeah.
You had the best quarterback.
Who had the line Dandy Reed, and where did it come from, and why was it given to two people at the same time?
It came from Mally.
Okay. All right. Don't do that anymore. Okay, gentlemen.
It's a good line.
Yes,
Mally.
That's really good, Dan. You got to let him go.
Listen,
I don't blame Mally.
Dandy Reed.
I agree. Look, you guys are. I agree. You guys are not questioning the process. I'm questioning the process. What I don't want, while I will acknowledge that Dandy Reed is good,
Mally,
I don't want from another room somebody shouting to two of my co-hosts, one of whom could be disoriented.
Yeah.
At the same time, the same line, so that they say it at the same time.
Stugotz is not disoriented. Plus, he said it first. I was just echoing him. I was reiterating what a great line Stugotz came up with.
Thank you. So nice we said it twice.
Yeah, I was
We
jealous.
can't have that room deciding these things. It's hard enough to wrangle these two on a Wild Billy Thursday without the help of Mally, who we've just introduced to the audience.
Let Mally live. He's apparently an Eagles fan. This has been a great week for him,
ouch.
even though he's from New York City and also is a Heat fan.
And a Mets fan.
But
Which
big week for him.
do you think feels better to Mally? Winning the Super Bowl or getting these two clowns to say Dandy Reed at the same time? That's a Meadowlark achievement right there.
when to cheer on, I don't get the show. Oh, tell me, you got the reasons. You got the reasons. Take me there. Take me there. Just take me there. The Super Bowl, 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 the Super Bowl.
I hope you're starting to see the light. Regardless of who's in it, it's a spectacle.
I think I'm starting to come around. Like, for instance, everybody wagering on a team. Chris Collinsworth sliding into your screen. I was too caught up in being a fan instead of just shotgunning beers and betting the Rams. Oh, tell me, you got more reasons. You got more reasons. Take me there. Take me there. Just take me there. The Super Bowl, 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 the Super Bowl.
Anything you want, everything you need, you can get it all. Pat McAfee, writings on the wall. What's it gonna be? You'll see Marshall Falk and Mariucci. Anything you want, everything you need, you can get it all from Dominique. Writings on the wall. What's it gonna be? You can get it all. Kyle Brandt's Hemmings.
Going out west for the Super Bowl.
Going out west for the Super Bowl.
My team's not there, but I'm gonna show.
My team's also not there, but I'm gonna show.
Everybody knows it's bound to be.
Everybody knows it's bound to be
The greatest night for you and me. Come on now. Take me there. Take me there. Just take me there.
The Super Bowl, 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 the Super Bowl.
I'll spend all night out in Venice, then make castles in the sand. Santa Monica's calling, but I'm here to cover the Rams. I'll sing in.
As we celebrate 20 years around here in this particular room with my friends who are beat up and tired and have a lot to do. Greg Cody's got to run out of here in a little bit before the chefs get here. Stugotz has to run out of here because he's got a ton of things to do with God Bless Football, which is growing and great. And Chris Sims is great. And Bomani Jones is on a recent episode, and that's great. And as they get tired and stuff and get beat up, running, trying to make this a video company as well as an audio company, I am reminded of the most wonderful times in this show's history when it behaved as only a radio show, only a thing that was heard, that didn't behave as if it was watched and was intimate, intimate because it was heard. And I close my eyes during the break and I hear that show sometimes when Stugotz is talking to whomever it is that he's talking to off the air. And when my eyes are closed, it sounds like the voice of the devil wandering around trying to tempt people into bad things. And so what I just heard that put a smile on my face while my eyes were closed, and I had gotten the breath, the blessed relief of Stugotz not machine gun talking at everybody all day. I heard our radio show when he simply said to somebody, I do not know who it is, Google obscure porn names and see if any of them sound like a fullback.
That was me.
He was talking to you?
Yeah, we're looking for a potential new game.
Yes.
Fullback or porn star.
Yes.
I thought he was talking to Malik because now all of us. So what I'm telling you about what's happening around here, because we got so much spinning around at all times. The audio Stugotz, and please video. Let's check in right now with Jessica as she shovels oatmeal into her face. She's taken. She was very good about waiting today instead of eating it like the bird seed last week. But you must be hungry. We've gone 2 very fast hours, and there hasn't been a lot of fuel around here.
I made the mistake of making oatmeal today for my granola. It's like a oat on oat with oat milk crime, I guess. And it takes 5 to 10 minutes to like steep in the little cup. So the whole break I was just waiting for it to be ready. And now it's finally ready, but the show's about to start. But if I wait a half hour, it's going to be cold. So I have to eat it.
Gross.
I really don't have a choice.
No choice.
And I've heard that people really like when I'm eating on air. They like the sound of me chewing while I talk.
Is there honey on that? Do you put? How do you sweeten that up, or is it just oats
It's
on
very
oats
sweet.
on oats?
My granola has a nice little brown sugar maple flavor, so it's very sweet, Dan.
JT Blondie Black. Fullback or porn star? Blondie Black.
Keep working on it. We will see if what we can get off the ground there.
Fullback?
Fullback.
Oh, what a new game.
I think it's a good game.
Thank you, Dan.
I think it's got some potential.
Porn star or fullback?
We could do it this way. We can listen to Dominique Foxworth here, and I want to get the analysis of the group on this, and I will see if I agree with your analysis or if I disagree with your analysis of my analysis. But let's see Dominique Foxworth talking about whether or not analytics have made the game less fun to cover, talk about, watch.
Probably like 3 factions or I guess disciplines of NFL media, and it's one like the guys who are probably closer to how we were when we were like teenagers and preteens, where it's like that's just dope. Like it does, like you're just like excited because something's cool. Like you read a couple articles here and there, but you don't live and breathe this stuff. You're not like a crazy sports gambler. You're like, this is really cool, and it's just like the basic fan. And then there's like an advanced level of it, I would guess. And that there is like the ball watchers and the jargon users and the film guys, which I think these 2 groups are the ones that I think offend Charlie specifically more than the other ones. And then there's the other group where it's like this is homework, where it's like the stats nerds, where they just kind of suck all the fun out of it. And I think, or not all the fun out of it, where they're looking to solve the problem, which like
speak definitively on topics. Yeah. Take out the gray area of a game that's really complicated.
And I can speak to this specifically because I think when I first got into media, like I recognized that I am who I am, so I try to overcompensate. Like my own personal insecurity is like, oh no, you guys aren't smarter than me. I can get as deep into these analytics as anybody can. And then I realized that I started dreading like getting ready for this, because it was much more fun to watch the game and then be like, you know what? This is dope. Now let me go find what the numbers say about this particular player or this player, because you know what? The reason why we like sports is because it's cool, and somebody did something that was cool or interesting that drove me to want to go into it. Like going the other way, I think sometimes is problematic.
Yeah, it sounded like he was sort of seeing both sides, seeing the value in all of it, and at the same time being afraid of it. I'm totally afraid of it and don't see the value in it. I think it has ruined sports watching in a way, because you get extraneous information that's too much. I don't have the bandwidth to give a shit whether a running back is running 18.6 miles an hour or 19.4 miles an hour.
Well, you're just cleaning up in late life the clutter that is in your mind. You don't have time for those things in the attic.
Right.
Like you're doing some house cleaning, and you're like, I'm tapped out on all of this.
Yeah.
I've got enough information. More information is not helpful. So you're making anything that's more information, you're making it extraneous.
The last advancement in analytics that I condone is when baseball invented a way to sort of combine slugging percentage and on-base percentage. I thought that was pretty cool, because that combined the guy who knows how to take a walk, the guy who
OPS.
OPS.
That's the stat. Jessica's laughing through her oatmeal at the idea that that's the one that you thought was the cool one.
She's snorting oatmeal.
OPS.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about OPS plus?
It's too much.
I'm against it.
How do you
What
say about
about
OPP?
OPS.
I like that.
Hey!
Yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. Billy thought he was going to sneak that past me. I'm hip.
Yeah, but
I'm
people
hip.
thought that you're hip because you know naughty by nature.
Baby.
You're hip because you know something from the early 90s.
Damn right I did. Yeah, you know me.
It's a good song. I'll turn it
It's
up
a
every.
great song.
I'll turn it up every time it's in my car.
Great song.
Your
Collaborate and listen. That's another song I always turn up. Vanilla Ice.
That's different, and
for
we
him.
should stop talking about this now.
I listened to this podcast yesterday on my run, and I thought they did a really good job of explaining, like, you know, what sort of resonates with people listening. Because there are people that are really good at incorporating analytics into their analysis and not just sort of rattling off stats that most people just kind of tune out of because they don't really understand what they're listening to. But there's like sort of a like different schools of thought. And like for me, like I think that, you know, trying to remember that most people are watching the game because they like to watch the plays and they like the players and it's very like person focused is kind of how I enjoy it and how I think most people enjoy it. And then if you have like a stat or something cool to back up what you're watching, that seems to be a good way to blend the two. But it's very difficult to do it well, especially to do it on the fly, like when you're watching a game, which is why, like, you know, there are certain people that are very, very good at doing that, like the color commentators of the world, not named Tom Brady. And it's a very difficult job.
I think if you look at sports, there's only a certain faction of people that can look at sports in the matrix sense of zeros and ones, right? I feel like if you work for the team and your job is to figure out, all right, this guy is better than this guy because of this reason, that's when you can look at sports as just a binary set of numbers. Everybody else should be vibes, right? Like, that's what we should be doing. We should be watching the games and be like, wow, Josh Allen, I don't know how to quantify that he's 6'5", and he could just be unstoppable at running. No, I know, except when he runs.
Quantifying the 6'5's easy.
Right, of course, but the quantifying the part where why does he go to the left every time and then get stopped instead of going straight forward? That's the part where I'm like, all right, somebody explain to me why he just keeps going left.
One of my favorite things between Billy and Tony, it's been happening since I met Tony. When Tony geeks out on sports and gets excited about sports and makes a bunch of threes on Instagram, Billy gets there in a hurry to be like, you shouldn't be that serious about sports.
Right.
That's geeking out as him saying people should be about vibes.
Well, no, he's just excited about what he's talking about. Tony is still excited by sports.
Yeah. He had a kid and he just needs to talk to someone is what's going on. So now he has a microphone. He's like, oh, and just saying everything's popping into his head. Exactly.
But because he's passionate about football, football is one of his wheelhouses. Football is where he gets to unravel some of his personality and what Jessica's talking about. She says it's hard. Can you, in short bursts, give me information and entertain me so that I want to listen when you're talking and you're not droning? But you mentioned, Jessica, schools of thought, and I do believe that people do not want schools with their football unless they're around the NIL money. Like, they don't want to think of classrooms. They don't actually want to think too much about thought, but that part is confusing to me because we have an industrial complex that really feeds this thing that is filled with thought. So at the beginning, Stugotz, of my radio career, one of the things that I was doing is I was talking to Billy Bean about Moneyball. I was doing a lot on the air, off the air, and Billy Bean was like sort of interested in the way that mainstream media wasn't interested in the math of what it is that he was doing at a time that he was, exploiting inefficiencies in his business model.
The economy of sports, really.
Well, but also somebody who's doing this stuff we're talking about, measurements.
Yes.
Like where Billy Bean's trading for a player in the minor leagues and never sees him play. He's just looking at numbers on a sheet. And so we're doing this to sports with fantasy and everywhere we do it, where we get impatient with the Chiefs with 3 years of excellence because it's like, I want to analyze all this, but the excellence, keep entertaining me, keep giving me more. But Greg's saying not more numbers, not more math, not more information. And I think Dominique is right when he's saying the best parts of sports are where Tony geeks out because somebody makes an amazing catch. You don't need it quantified. You can't quantify it.
Dominique needs to name names because he's very much dancing around. He has people in mind, and he's afraid to say the names of the people he has in mind, and he's dancing around it for some reason.
Like who?
There's some of his coworkers, probably.
Some of his coworkers, some of his friends, guests on this show.
I want you to name a name.
Aaron Schatz.
All right. Shots
fired.
Shots fired.
Aaron Shots fired.
Go ahead and find that if you do have that music executive producer at your disposal, if you're going to do shots fired, you can put audio. Yeah, don't worry about the radio audience.
They also talked on the podcast with Brian Curtis about like if sports coverage, especially like football's gotten better or worse, and he was like, well, both. Like you can find really good stuff in podcasts or written form or on a Substack or whatever that like you couldn't find like 20 years ago. It wouldn't be in the newspaper or wouldn't be like on, you know, the ESPN home site. But you can also find like way worse coverage. Like you can find the dumbest, like most overly simplified or just bad coverage of a play that's just incorrect and wrong, because the access to posting that stuff's gotten a lot easier too. So, I mean, there really is something out there for everyone, which, you know, is maybe good and also bad if you're trying to actually understand what you're watching.
You, though, I believe, in terms of the people that we have here in this room, I believe amongst all of us, maybe Tony would have an objection to this, but I believe that you care enough about this sport and being more informed about this sport because you're passionate about it, that you glide effortlessly between both of these worlds on wanting to be more informed, wanting to learn, not having the learning spoil your enjoyment, and then gravitate toward the people who are giving you that information in the smartest and most entertaining way. I would imagine that you're doing something that not a lot of people in this room are doing, where they are seeking out some of the higher, better information to go with their candy.
Yeah, and even that, I'm like, I wonder how much, like, to even incorporate into, like, Lucy and I do, like, a 25-minute college football segment. When I watch games on Saturdays, I'm always looking at Game on Paper, which is a great website where they break down all of the different, like, advanced stats for every FBS college football game that weekend. And, like, I'll go back and I'll look at, like, what was this team's success rate? How does this team rank here? How does this team rank there? And, like, sometimes it just, like, won't even come up. We don't have time to really talk about all of that. But you could also just look at it and be like, this team, like, if you watch the game, you might have thought, like, it was not a great offensive performance, but the stats actually show that it was pretty good. What is like an accessible statistic you can use? Like, is it just something like, you know, how many times did they convert on third down? Like, how many times did they do this or that? Like, you can sort of find easier ways to explain it sometimes. But I even wonder, like, how many people really care about that sort of thing? Or do they just want to laugh at, like, look at this funny blocked punt in this college football game? Yeah. Like, I think it's just something that everyone has to find the balance of.
Well, I would say, though, that one of the things that has to happen in the consumption of this information, specifically in the modern age, Stugotz, because there are more avenues to your information and more menu choices than you have ever had. But I think what ends up happening is that somebody either likes you or believes in the way that you're chewing all of this up and regurgitating it. Like, I understand why it is that you would be hesitant to get caught in the weeds for 75 seconds talking math in a way that is an obvious tune-out. But over time, people will trust that you are informed enough with the right numbers, and you will change their minds on things with things that you have learned because you're able to back it up with facts, that the open-minded will then become fans of consuming football through a different person. Orlovsky has done this exceptionally. He's changed the way that people view Orlovsky. And I know people make fun of him at ESPN, and I know that he's guilty of this thing that you're accusing Dominique of, which he doesn't want to criticize anybody in a profession where he still wants jobs, which is a really hard needle to thread on how you do criticism in public. You better be good at the other stuff. Giving people your weird, giving people your personality, having strong opinions. If you're going to have what was his quarterback credibility, which is you don't know how to do this, you ran out of the back of the end zone, to no, you're an expert, and I trust your expertise because you're giving it to me in a way that's both digestible and entertaining in a way that impresses me. And furthermore, you don't seem to want to work in this business. You seem to want to work in football for real, not off to the side in the middle of it. That's how much you love what it is that you're watching, that you're not actually being very critical of some of the people in the way your colleagues are.
Billy's afraid to say it's Mina. I mean,
is it?
Mina's actually the best example of, like, doing it all well. Like, she can break down things really well, but also just explain it, like, regularly, and it's not like you're like, what the hell is she talking about?
Right.
So, good. I mean, good for Mina. Good on her. It's very rare.
Dan, I'm all for advanced metrics as long as someone can explain them to me in a way that I can understand, that I can digest them, and they have impact on what it is I'm actually watching. To Greg's point, I don't need 18 miles per hour.
Stugotz,
I don't care how fast you're running. Are you scoring touchdowns?
Yes.
I don't care how quickly you get there.
Thank you.
Are you scoring 6 points? That's all I care. And Tony is so right about the vibe. I love Tony Romo. That's how fans love football. It's a vibe. Big play, right, Jim? Yes.
Big third down here.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Tony
saying to my
Romo's
wife.
Another good example, though, great vibes.
Great vibes.
He can explain what's happening on a play, and he's not going to get, like, super bogged down and stuff. And then he also just will say, like, he'll make a weird noise, and it's funny.
Yes.
He's a legend. I love Tony Romo.
I love him.
They tried to turn me on Tony Romo. And
Don't
I
let
said,
him.
You know
Why'd
what?
they do
Don't let
that?
the haters do that.
Why
No.
Don't let them do
You
it.
can't make me hate Tony Romo. I think he's great.
I will share with the audience what is happening there on a Wild Billy Thursday. Okay. Billy is executive producing his own show for the 6 fans who find him the most uproarious, because he is the most uproarious when he makes these particular jokes for these 6 fans.
A to B, Dan.
So A to B, Billy Gill in charge of Billy Chill, in charge of
Billy.
executive producing, has just decided, because I stared at him 3 minutes ago and he saw the furnace in my eyes. He saw the rage in my eyes that we did not instantaneously have the Aaron shots music. So that is Aaron Shots laughing. No one in the audience knows that except for 3 people who know that Billy's producing the show and he's shots fired. It's Aaron Shots laughing.
Good laugh. I assume a Suey nominee.
Why can you not find in the library the shots that plays every time we have Aaron Shots on answering your fast phone calls?
I don't think we got that from ESPN.
No, they
I
kept
put in
it.
here Aaron Shots laugh, Aaron Shots interview, but there's no shots.
How are you spelling shots?
SCHATZ.
Oh,
and then I
wow.
tried to misspell it a couple different ways, and all I
Shats.
found here,
I mean, in Billy's defense, he did have the Mina Kimes sound you know, at the ready.
And the laugh. Come on. I mean, who could forget?
He was prepared.
What Greg Cody just did there, where he turned shots to shats.
It spells it with an A.
Probably a rough childhood for old Aaron, right?
Pronounce your own name.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is it a rough childhood for you if your last name is Shats?
Try Wiener on for size. Want to hear about it.
Look at Billy admiring his own work there with the Hakeem Nicks laugh.
That is a good laugh.
You think he gave me the joke of my last name?
He looked very pleased with
did.
himself. Yeah, I tend to recognize his look. Yes, I believe he reminded you what your last name is. Yes, I do believe that. I've been watching him do it for years. Can you guys get for me, please, the sound yesterday from David Sampson when he was on with us? Because I came in today and people were arguing about it because Billy wasn't on yesterday and Jessica wasn't on yesterday. But Billy was delighting in the idea that David Sampson announced to everyone listening that he himself should be in the Marlins Hall of Fame.
I'm guessing David thinks he should be in the Marlins Hall of Fame. And I'm not certain he's wrong. I mean, he did win a World Series as team president.
And got a ballpark opened.
Yeah.
And so do I think that I should be in the first class? Absolutely not. Do I think that when you look at important figures in the history of the franchise, am I in that conversation? I don't know how to argue against that.
Wow. How about that? Hall of Fame. The Marlins invent a Hall of Fame for themselves. How about joining a hall of spending money on players? What they need is a new owner right now. And to David Sampson's credit, at least when he and Lori were running the franchise, they went, they had fire sales, but they spent money. They gave, Stanton a big contract.
How dare you say the Marlins didn't spend money? They signed Cal Quantrill yesterday. They are no longer the lowest spending team this offseason. Why don't you go talk to the Cardinals or the Brewers, Greg Cody? How about their owners?
Sampson is no longer running the team, though, to Greg's point.
Sampson could be in the Hall of Infamy.
No, but when they got the new ballpark, that team did spend money. Now, they didn't spend it well,
They
but
sold
they
it by
spent money.
June. What are we doing? Revisionist history, guys.
They really did
Enough
trade
time
it,
passes and anyone can look good.
It's so bad.
Well,
This is crazy.
If you have
Except Bruce Sherman.
If you have a subheader in your wiki page that says subsequent ballpark related lawsuit,
Also Rico.
Do you get also
Thank
yes, Rico lawsuit following the sale of the Expo. So that's unrelated to the Marlins, I guess. Do you get to be in that team's Hall of Fame? Going off Wiki header, Dan.
And so I ask you, are those convictions or those allegations? Like, what are those settled? Like, I think that lawsuits. I think
OJ didn't kill anyone technically.
I don't know. I remember one time. This will make you guys laugh. I went one time as an entrepreneurial reporter, back when you would go to a library and actually just like look through things in film records and stuff. And I remember because I was an intern and they had assigned me some things, asking me to become a reporter when I wasn't really a reporter and didn't know how it is to go about this. And so I was looking up and found that the Miami Heat had been sued 7 times. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, okay, I've got something here. What is this? And alphabetically, right after Heat is Miami Herald. It had been sued hundreds of times. like I'm sitting there reporting on lawsuits, so I don't know here what is true and what is not true. Except beyond what Jeremy is saying, which is yes, if enough history passes, people will forget the bad things that you have done because there is no circumstance under which anyone in this town would make an argument on behalf of David Sampson for a Marlins Hall of Fame
Okay, you may not know about like the status of the lawsuit, which was dismissed, but you do obviously know about the ballpark deal, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But they
Hall of Fame worthy?
They didn't do anything illegal with the ballpark. Right. They did things that would be considered, I guess, business immoral. But everyone investigated everything. Like he got a ballpark built in a town that does not thank him for building that ballpark. And he's not wrong.
They didn't want it.
But he's not wrong. No, they didn't want it. But he's not wrong when he says the business of baseball still exists in Miami because of that ballpark. Right. It would be Oakland if not for that.
Well, that could be his Hall of Fame, though, because he's never getting into the Hall of Fame. Like, never. Not even on his deathbed will he get into the Hall of Fame. He's just, as a position of president of the team, he's not going to get into the Hall of Fame just because of his position. And he's the most infamous of them and not well-liked by anyone.
Billy, I think yesterday it was agreed that it would need to be a tragic death for David Sampson for him to get into the
tragic.
Hall of Fame. Like, tragic.
Yeah. He would have to have a tragic death.
He would have to personally in order to potentially get into the Hall of Fame.
Like in the next 2 years.
And then how long after the fact?
Right. I want to explore what Greg Cody just did there because thank you for taking up for David Sampson there. Greg Cody said, as does Chris Cody. I like him.
They like him personally, not as president of the Marlins.
Well, here's the thing. David Sampson's job in that stadium deal was to negotiate the best possible deal for his business, the Miami Marlins. It was the responsibility of the city of Miami and Miami-Dade County to protect the taxpayers and do their job by negotiating a deal that didn't be so lopsided for the Marlins. David Sampson did exactly what he was supposed to do as a club president. It was the politicos
in
at the
regards
time
to the
didn't.
Stadium, though,
Yes.
because he completely turned off a fan base for generations as president with on-the-field moves. So I would argue that he did not do what he
But you would
needed
not
to do.
allow him into the Hall of Fame even if wheeled in on his deathbed just as a visitor? Like a
paying visitor to the Hall of Fame. He could come as a
go
visitor.
to the 5th floor.
He could go as a guest if he wants of someone. Well, I don't even know if he can go as a guest. They may not have allowed him in the building.
Would you be okay? Would Billy,
I don't care.
Well, you just said not even on his deathbed that
I'm
he will
saying
never get in.
Not because of me. I'm not a voter.
Okay,
I have no say in who gets in and who
no,
doesn't. I'm just saying reality says he's not going to get into the Hall. There's 4 people.
Billy, given that you're somebody who cares about the Marlins
Yeah.
still,
I don't have a vote.
I understand that you don't have a vote. You're not as important as Greg Cody, who has many Hall of Fame votes.
One.
You are a big Marlins fan. And so I'm telling you, when David Sampson is on his deathbed.
Yeah. I don't know why we're doing this.
That's fine. How about you just let me do the show? David Sampson is on his deathbed, and he is outside the gates of the Marlins Hall of Fame because he wants to get in.
Wondering which gates he was
Yeah,
going
which
to
gates? Jeez. A couple of them.
You know the gates.
He wants to be let in as a dying wish at the end, as an act of compassion and understanding that forgiveness is something that we should all aspire to.
Aspire to, not reach.
Okay, understood. I'm making you on this one day the gatekeeper. The one day I'm okay with you protecting Marlins fandom and how the fans feel about the Marlins. Do you allow a dying David Sampson on his deathbed to be wheeled in by Gurney into the Hall of Fame as a visitor. As only a visitor.
Paying or invited guest?
Like he just wants to see the hall? Like
Look, I know he's
it's
not.
a short trip. There's only 4 people in it.
I know he's not going to say, I know he will not say that he will allow him to be in the Hall of Fame enshrined. There, right? Or would you?
What? Tony was talking in my ear. What are you asking me?
Would you be okay with him enshrined in the Hall of Fame for the Marlins? Okay, so the only way you will allow him in is with a paying ticket on his deathbed.
Possibly. Maybe. We'll see. How long off is this?
How long would you like it to be?
I'm just asking.
He takes it seriously, Dan.
Yeah, I'm not
Marlins
taking this
Hall of
question
Fame.
lightly.
Yeah, right.
It took, 30-something years to even come into existence.
Yeah,
Every other team has a willy-nilly Hall of Fame. The Red Sox, the
Ridiculous.
Cardinals. Exactly right.
What's ridiculous about
One
it?
Hall of Fame, that's it. The
Right.
major one. If you
Yeah.
can't get into that, you don't belong in
Right.
the others.
Are you okay with the class for the Marlins Hall of Fame? The first class. I mean,
Wait
no?
a minute. What do you mean?
You love the Marlins. I mean,
I don't want to talk about the Marlins first
oh,
class.
it's a great class. I'm wondering why Eric Gregg's not in it.
good
To
one.
be honest.
That's why he was just setting up that joke. He rode home with that joke yesterday. I didn't even see it coming. The old veteran threw one past me. An Eric Gregg joke.
And Conine is the first person in his.
That's a funny thing to put in the Marlins Hall of Fame
Right.
because I would also put in that Hall of Fame the Roy Halladay thing. He threw a perfect game against us and we sold the ticket stubs afterward for profit.
Right.
Another David Sampson original. This is a good Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
I found a column that says, it's from the Tampa Bay Times. It says, Greg Cody, Loria must sell Marlins to elicit cheer. And then in paragraph 2, it says, you thought the death of Fidel Castro was celebrated down here. The departure of Loria might run a close second.
I did write that. I remember.
But now Sampson deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because he saved baseball?
No, because Greg likes him.
Right.
First
No,
of all,
you're right.
First of all, I never said he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but he was largely responsible for the new stadium. And
Did you say that was a good thing at the time?
It was a good thing for the Marlins and for baseball fans.
Did you say that at the time?
Yeah, Jeffrey Loria actually got along with me because I was one of the few people in the media who supported that deal for the Marlins and for baseball fans, while acknowledging it was a terrible deal for the city of Miami. But I never blamed Sampson for getting the best deal that he could. That was his job. And it was the elected officials' job to protect the citizens and the taxpayers. They didn't do their job. David Sampson did his job. And if I'm inducting a club president into the Marlins Hall of Fame, I would put Sampson in before I'd put Derek Jeter. I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Well, that's obvious.
that's fair.
Yes.
Okay, but I think the average fan would go, oh, Derek Jeter, superstar. We hate Sampson. Sampson did a better job as club president than Jeter did.
Greg, I'll just flatly say it. David Sampson belongs in the Marlins Hall of Fame.
It's not the Hall of did a better job.
Exactly right. None of the presidents have been great. I mean, he got a stadium, and that's his legacy.
Right.
The stadium's his legacy.
They got their two
That's
managers
good
in
enough.
The thing that I would say about Greg Cody, and Billy Corbin has been making fun of Greg Cody about this particular thing for years, because, Jeremy, you would indeed be wrong. Greg Cody was very much for the idea of bilking a very poor region so that Greg Cody would have a place to park for free and go up to the press box and have free media hot dogs. And he wanted the taxpayers to pay for what is good for Greg Cody and the business of Greg Cody and sports of Greg Cody. We all vote with our own interests, and Greg Cody was very publicly rooting for David Sampson because it was good for business down here in South Florida, as opposed to Jessica, who's bad for the business of just sports and football because
Doofus.
Nick Wright says she's a doofus.
You're right.
You were voting for you there. Greg Cody, Billy Corbin, and you do not get along, and you don't
Right.
like Billy Corbin.
No, he's a jackass. He can be in his animus toward me, and in other ways, he's got some jackass in him.
Yeah.
And don't put words in my mouth. What I'm saying is, it's David Sampson's job to get a stadium built and to make the best financial deal he could, and he did. It's not David Sampson's responsibility to protect the taxpayers. Elected officials are supposed to do that, They didn't do their job.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you argue that the city's editorial board being very pro a stadium does actually matter in the sort of like support of its constituents and readers?
I don't recall what the Herald's editorial board...
It was very positive about this. I was just reading a blog post with some of their...
As were you throughout.
Yes, I was, yeah. And I don't recoil from that. I don't recoil from that at all. The taxpayers have elected officials to represent them. Those are the ones to blame. My whole point is I don't blame the Marlins for doing the best job they could on to get a financially good deal for themselves. They did a great job.
David was just doing his job.
It's exactly
right. And now his job is to negotiate against me.
And now we're saying, as collective Marlins fans in the room, that he did his job, but that is not Hall of Fame worthy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the do your job of fame.
I think Billy made a good point. If all your legacy is that you got a stadium built and that arguably that stadium saved baseball in South Florida, that's a pretty good legacy.
That's fine. And by the way,
and throw in one Super Bowl or
one World Series,
one World Series title.
Yeah,
and,
right. Regardless of how many people in the neighborhood were negatively impacted by it.
Okay, let's blame the politicians for that.
Wow. There's plenty of blame to go around.
Drain the swamp.
Okay.
I was like 7 when this happened, and I didn't live in Miami. I'm just trying to make the argument for it doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, so the Billy Corbins of the world think to themselves, you know what? David Sampson, businessman, should have been a philanthropist on the part of the people of Miami and said, hey, city commissioners, this deal's too lopsided for the Marlins. You got to do a better. We got to give you more money. We got to make the deal better for you. No, that was the politician's job, and they failed. And to this day, I don't.
Okay, but like let's like stretch this out a little bit. Do you not put any personal blame on any business person or oligarch who gets away with fleecing people out of money just because an elected official gives them the power to do that?
I
taking
do.
David Sampson out of the equation completely because we all know him personally. Like.
Right.
That's, I think, a sort of a ridiculous stance to take, that you should just expect everyone to be as selfish and greedy as possible. And if, people elected to go in power, let them do it. Well, you can't blame them for it.
Well, I can and do. I blame the politicians.
A lot of them
in this
got
case.
recalled.
No, I'm talking
or
about
voted out of office.
the non-politicians.
The rich people who take advantage of the fact that they can influence power with their money.
And they can, and they should, but the firewall is supposed to be the elected officials, okay? If you can blame Big Pharma because you're paying outrageous money for a medication, that doesn't start with Big Pharma. That starts with the politicians allowing it. Now, if you're running, and a president...
But, Greg, we live in a capitalistic society where money can exert influence over elected officials. It can win people elections.
I know.
This is like playing out currently in Washington.
Yeah. So, but, okay... If you're the president of a baseball club in any era, your job is to get a stadium built and strike the best deal that you can. I don't understand. You don't have to be an evangelist for the people.
I think no matter what,
the politicians
anyone
are supposed to
in
do that.
any private sector, they're trying to get the best deal for themselves.
Right.
And in some parts of the private sector, no matter whether they're providing what we would view as a public good or not, right? Having a baseball team in your town, public good to an extent. But when you're in the private sector and you're trying to get that best deal for yourself and yourself alone, that's where we start to kind of blur those lines between what's okay, what's not, morally, not morally. You're right. David Sampson's job, make the most money I can, get the best deal for me and my fellow people who are financially involved and move on. But to be in the position to sort of just write that off as, that's what he's supposed to do, and then make that the case for him to be in a Hall of Fame is an interesting one.
In fairness, it's only been 13 years. It could still revitalize Little Havana.
The name of the podcast is Nothing Personal because he prides himself on business not being this kind of personal. Stugotz, I was surprised, and perhaps I shouldn't have been, that the other day I got aggregated on some of the reporting that I was talking about as it related to the Durant and Miami Heat stuff.
Right.
And it was specifically about Ishbia, the owner of the Suns, and how it is that he is a nightmare. I thought that was the most common of knowledge. I thought people understood in no uncertain terms that the owner of the Suns was running the Suns in a way that made it pretty obvious that it was his toy. Different Suns than the way that the owner of the Jets did it. But that I thought you guys all understood and everyone knew that Ishbia was being meddlesome owner guy. And because he has the money and the power, he's allowed to be, he can be, and we can object to it, but it won't change the fact that the money and the power gets to run those teams the way they want.
So you thought it was common knowledge, and you're wondering why it is you got aggregated.
I was it not something that
I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
That everyone already knew?
Does it feel like a little bit of inside baseball? Because we had the episode with PTFO where he was talking about how he had the leaked phone calls with kind of painting Ishbia in a bad light. So it feels like us internally here at Meadowlark have seen the happenings of Matt Ishbia and been like, oh, maybe he's not the most.
The Pablo Torre Finds Out episode goes and does a deep dive on like the mortgage industry and basically how it is that he and Dan Gilbert hate each other and how it is that they got rich. But nobody can be surprised that Ishbia would want to be like Dan Gilbert while fighting Dan Gilbert when you've made your money at the top of the mortgage game and just like, and given what the housing problem is in this country.
A big one.
Yeah, that was